Gene Lunsford. So my memories, all my memories of Gene are fun and funny, and he was a great person, and he was, I think every guy's going to feel the same way. There are so many funny stories that you really are not appropriate to talk about. But at the same time, as he progressed into being our manager, he kind of had a military thought process. He was a little bit like a drill sergeant in a way. Like the clothes that we wore, we almost felt like we were soldiers in the army, and everything had to be just perfect and just the right way. And if we didn't have our clothes the way, or if we forgot something, all of those things were things that were important to the band, and he was very committed to the band. He was a funny man and fun to hang out with, but at the same time he was very committed to the success of the band and for it to push forward. And so in my mind, because I was always that way myself, I was very serious about what was going on musically. And I was very serious about what was going on with the business of the band. And it was great to have Gene and even his wife, Ruby, there being part of the organization of that.
Gene Gene Lunsford was the stepfather of our guitar player, and Gene was in some ways like another band member. He was one of our buddies. We could joke with him, we could talk with him about anything, and at the same time Gene became our manager. He had a van that hauled our equipment, he booked our gigs, kept us, our business side of things, somewhat in order. I have nothing but great memories of Gene as a human being, and as an adult now in my life, I think about Gene put a lot of time, energy, and effort in helping us kids. And he enjoyed it and had a great time, I know that. But at the same time, you know, he worked his full-time job, and yet he was there with us for every gig, everything that needed to be attended to. He was helping us out.
There are so many stories with Gene. You know, my first recollection of Gene, and this is kind of how this kind of goes to the relationship that we had with him. When we first started practicing at Jim's house in the garage, every once in a while you'd see other people that would come over and watch our band practices. And I remember seeing this guy. He would always come over on this Triumph motorcycle. And I often wondered who he was, because he looked a little bit older than maybe a senior in high school, you know. And to let you know, at this time, I was a freshman in high school. And at some point, I kept wondering, who is this guy? And then I think it was Jim that told me that was that was Larry's dad. And I couldn't believe it, you know, he could be that young. And they said, well, it was his stepdad. So he wasn't really like our parents' age. He was like younger, you know. I would say he was maybe 8 or 9 years younger than like all of our parents were. And we had a different relationship with him, you know, and the jokes that he would tell us, you know, none of the other parents would tell us jokes like that. So it was a very fun relationship we had with him, and he would come around, you know, always. And I remember he had this nickname that he gave me. At the time, there was this song called the Philly Dog. So he used to call me Philly. Hey, Philly Dog, you know. And he came up with these expressions. One I remember, you know, if something surprised him where somebody else would go, oh boy, or something like that, he would always say, good googly woogly, you know. And that's the kind of way he was about him. He always, I remember, always a smile on his face until he got mad, you know. And I remember he used to call Larry, he would always call him Lunsford, you know. And he was just this funny guy, and and he did go on to be our manager. So we had a little different relationship with him. He was actually a very strict guy when it came to being our manager. If we did something that wasn't right, or we forgot an article of clothing, if it was your tie or something, your shirt wasn't pressed, he would dock you. You know, we used to get docked money for if something wasn't right. But I guess it made us better like that. And there are just so many jokes that and memories that I guess when I'm around the other guys in the band we can talk about, but stuff that you could never repeat. I was shocked at some of the stuff that I heard Gene say.